So Zach Edey, tell me why the best player in college basketball is not even necessarily a guarantee to go in the first 19, 20 picks.
Oh boy. So I like Zach Edey, and
Okay.
I have him. Where do I have him? I filed draft guide rankings. He will be in the top like 17
Okay.
or so, top
All
18, right? I really like Zach Edey. I think he is I've been saying this all year. I think he is the best screener in college basketball. He is outstanding at making contact and like flipping his hips and rescreening and like getting guys like Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer like any sort of space to operate. He is fantastic as a screener, and he was really good at rolling toward the rim and rolling into post ups and rolling into potential buckets at the basket. I thought he was really good at it, like as a sophomore. Even he's a really, really good ball screen player, I think. Defensively, I thought he got so much better than what he got credit for being over the course of his career, and I completely understand the concerns about him, playing defense in the NBA, given how big he is and given how awkward it looks.
He just doesn't seem to have foot speed. Like doesn't. Yeah. There you go.
I'm actually more worried about him in transition defense, kind of getting up and down the court in a speedy manner.
Okay.
And thus like potentially not creating more 4-on-5 opportunities for his defense than I am in drop. I actually think he's quite a good drop defender now. He takes up so much space. He is so enormous, Will. It's hard to overemphasize how big this dude is. He is 7'4" without shoes on. I think 7'3", 7'5", with like a 7'10" and a half wingspan.
Yeah, we got a half white Yao Ming size. Like it's crazy how large he is. Yeah,
enormous. Like he's a huge human being. And I also think that people are like looking at him and going, oh, like, but is he going to be able to bully these dudes in the NBA like he did in college?
I mean,
I think so. I'm just going to be real with it. I love Bam Adebayo, and this is like a specific matchup. Bam is like one of the best defenders in the NBA, but like Bam is not big enough to deal with him. Like Bam is like 6'10" with like a 7'3" wingspan. Zach Edey is just like stronger than he is as well. Zach Edey is really strong. And the other thing I will say, like I remember talking to Zach before his junior year, before like the National Player of the Year breakout. And like you could see he still had some like baby fat on his face and like was still like growing into his body a little bit. I saw him at the Final Four this year. He is in unbelievable shape. It is like he is skinny. Like if you go and you look at some photos of him when he was at like IMG Academy or early days at Purdue, and then look at a photo of him now, he has like a six pack. Like he is like he's in unbelievable shape for a dude who's like 300 pounds. What are the worries here? So look, transition defense is like a real thing to me, right? Like there will be matchups that Edey like will struggle with. There is a chance I think that Zach Edey is not a guy you want out there in the playoffs, unfortunately, because of his movement skills. I think he can play in drop. I don't think he can play in any other defensive scheme. And as we're seeing in the playoffs, for instance, in the finals, where Boston is literally just pulling Derek Lively, who is a much better athlete than Zach Edey, away from the rim and saying, okay, we're just going to like make sure you're at the top of the key and you're not going to be anywhere near the rim. Do you know how many blocks Derek Lively has in the first two games of the NBA Finals, Will?
Probably 0.
He has literally 0 blocks after I think like finishing in the top 5 of blocks per game, like in the playoffs to start this thing. So there are going to be matchups where he just like is not going to be able to play. And that's going to be a problem whenever you get to the playoffs. In terms of like the offense, there are times where like his hands worry me a little bit. Not a lot, just a small amount, right? Like I will see him like fumble momentarily with his hands. Most of the time he catches it, but if you go like below the waist or you go, like really zip one to him, I think he will catch it. I don't know that it will be like 100% consistent all of the time. The final thing here is like he is a post big, and like NBA teams are probably not going to post him all that much unless he has a mismatch, right? Because that's just not the reality. The good news is I do think he has that ball screen game to be able to fall back on, and I think that will be effective. I also just believe in the dude, just point blank. I will just say that the way I say it. He is competitive as hell. Like this dude is, he gets furious from what I've been told when this team loses. Like he is somebody that is the kind of worker and has the kind of mentality, I think, that tends to overperform. And he has done that at every level to this point, right? He was at IMG, he was behind Mark Williams and was like playing on the second team. And then he's developed to the point where he's like an equal prospect with Mark Williams was when he was coming into the NBA and won 2 National Player of the Years. He was like a top 300 recruit or whatever and went on to be the most decorated college basketball player of the last 3 decades or whatever it is. I just believe in the human is kind of the easy way to put it. That's why I have him in the top, 16, 17. I frankly just believe in him like as a human being to figure it out and play in the NBA for a while.
Yeah, I mean, obviously everyone knows Zach. I didn't have to describe Zach's game because I think everyone's watched enough, especially here in Toronto, especially him being Canadian, especially him playing for the national team as well. And I've actually had a couple conversations with just Raptors people, front office people, just like, hey, what do you think about Zach? Just conversational and things like that.
Sure.
And they won't necessarily tell me specifically like, yes, we love him, or yes, we want to avoid him at all costs. The one question, and I've heard this from a few other people, is just what role does he play in the NBA? Because I do think that like it's hard to look at Zach's game and how he played at Purdue and then look in the NBA and see, is there anybody who plays like that? And if he is going to be an exception, then do you have to cater your whole game around that, which realistically no one's catering their whole game around somebody they picked 19th.
To me, it's almost like a Jonas Valanciunas thing more than anything. Like, Jonas is good in ball screens. Jonas is good in dribble handoffs. Jonas is really good at posting bigs as like a bailout offensive option at the end of shot clocks. And he's really good at posting mismatches. Like, to me, that's kind of the role. I think that Zach is really good in ball screens and like you'll be able to utilize him that way. And then defensively, it just has to be drop. And he is a more scheme limited player than unfortunately what you like to see at number 19 maybe, but if they took him, like I think he would be a good basketball player at the end of the day for them.